Hi, I'm Dr. Rich Blana, host of the Healthy Stress Doctor podcast. This is the 10th edition of the podcast. In this edition, I'm going to talk about what we just discussed in the last newsletter, and that is your mind's ability to use past frames of reference to process current information and to actually project that into the future in terms of potentially stressful situations. If you remember from our discussion or from reading the newsletter on relational frame theory, your mind has the ability to synthesize information from the past, bring it to the present, and project it into the future. I call this going past, present, future. And this is a tremendously valuable resource that we have as humans. Think about building a deck. If you were going to build a deck and you've built one in the past, you can use all of the past relational frames that are in your mind from your previous deck building and bring that information and those mental images and those personal scripts from that previous deck work into the present. And you can think about, well, what am I going to need in order to build this deck? What kind of materials? What kind of labor? How long is it going to take? What is it going to cost? What are my skills in terms of the things that I can control, some of the variables? So you can use your mind's ability to take information from the past, bring it into the present, do your deck planning, and then project it into the future and look at things such as the calendar, your timeline, when you're going to get paid, how you're going to get money to pay for the different components of the deck. So you can control some of these variables related to the physical act of building a deck. You can control your use of time. You can control your use of money. You can control how you're going to gain access to tools and maybe labor. So when you can harness the power of your mind's ability to go past, present, future for things you can control, like your behavior and your environment, your mind's ability is a tremendously powerful asset. Now, when you try and do the same thing and try and control things that your mind can't control, like thoughts, mental images, personal scripts, and your emotions, when you go past, present, future, and you try and control those kinds of things, it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, if you start thinking about past events that trigger these negative personal scripts and thoughts and these powerful emotions and these painful mental images, and you then work on trying to control them so they don't go into the future, you're just going to make them worse. That's what relational frame theory tells us. So when you try and use the power of your mind to eliminate the pain and suffering you have with some of your illogical thinking and your personal scripts, it just makes things worse, and that brain's power is now harnessed in a negative way. So rather than try and control your thinking, it's better to start just accepting and coexisting with some of your thoughts and really starting to examine them in terms of their helpfulness. And that's a really better way to deal with our thoughts than to evaluate them in terms of whether they're good or bad, right or wrong. I think, are they helpful or unhelpful? And really, are they unhelpful or helpful in terms of your values and doing the things you need to do to meet your goals? That really is the gold standard for looking at the usefulness of your thoughts. Rather than try and control them, just ask yourself the question, is this thought helpful in terms of meeting my goals and staying consistent with what I value, with what's important to me? Or is this thought unhelpful in terms of meeting my goals and staying consistent with what I value? Now, next month we'll continue this discussion and we'll look at some common unhelpful thinking traps that we fall into, that we get hooked on, and why we get stuck when we try and control our thinking rather than to just accept it and move on. Look forward to meeting with you next month.